The semi-finals are upon us in the May Melee. My name is George, joined by Hex once again, and we've got two exciting matches coming up for you today. We have the Shock versus the Valiant first up, then we've got the Mayhem facing up against Philadelphia Fusion.
Yeah, a lot on the line for these teams. Obviously, if you've been up as long as I have watching the games last night and today, you know that we're hitting peak Overwatch season right now. Some great results from our APAC region. We've already crowned a champion over there. Guangzhou ended up losing to Seoul in a really close one. New York needs a couple weeks off because that one was tough to watch against Shanghai. And then there's a 7-match set with Shanghai versus Seoul Dynasty. Don't necessarily want to spoil it for you, but it's the internet, but you definitely need to watch that one if you haven't. It is one of the all-time classic matchups that we had in that region. And luckily we have a great VOD system here on YouTube, and you can just always check it out. But not yet. Not until after these matches.
Yeah, don't go away just yet.
Yeah,
just wait a second.
Like Broadcast 101. Don't go away yet.
We have two semi-finals and then the grand finals, of course, coming up a little bit later on today. You're not going to want to miss it, that is for sure. The APAC region, just a dominant region thus far, I think. It's kind of arguable at this point which region is actually stronger right now, but the Dragons just look ridiculous, and even Seoul getting and making it into the final series did extremely well considering their kind of lackluster performance, I will say, over the last couple of weeks. Of course, Hex as well, it has been open hero pool too. There is nothing that has been taken away, so teams can experiment and, well, not even experiment, just play what they love playing and play what works around their team the best, right? So that is one of the best things I think that we're seeing from the May Melee. And would you look at that? Rewards as well. Would you, nice little bit of prize money, but
Yeah.
What's rather important is the wins, Hex.
No, absolutely. Like, no one's going to argue the importance of cash money. Really important. Cash rules everything around us, I believe was the saying. However, for these teams, it's really important to start adding wins onto it. And it's such a unique tournament format that you get far in the tournament, you get wins added to your regular season standing. So as we move on throughout the year, a team that's maybe been slumping can win one of these monthly tournaments and start really getting on the comeback. All of these teams, by virtue of reaching the semifinals, already get one win added. The semifinalist runner up, or not winner as it were, will get 2 wins, and then 3 wins is the grand prize for winning the tournament here. And for some of these teams that maybe got off to a slow start, you imagine you start winning some of these games, you pop on 3 on top, and all of a sudden a team that was a low seed is sitting at the top of the standings.
Yeah, Valiant looking pretty good over the last couple of weeks as well, mind you. Some rather new additions to their roster as well, coming through from contenders, people like KSP, and I've been excited to see him matching up against the best Widowmakers in the world. And I did tweet out yesterday, Hex, that I think we have just such incredible Widowmakers in the game currently. We have people like Decay, KSP, we even got Arns now as well on the Shock, so I'm hoping we see a little bit of Widow 1v1 action today. I'm sure we will at some point. And we'll have a look what Packing 10 actually had to say about the Shock, because he's got some fighting words, I'm sure, as he always does.
Now, tomorrow you're heading into the semifinals and you will face off against no other than the San Francisco Shock. Based on their performance they showed today, what are your thoughts heading into this matchup?
They're a good team. They'll always be a good team. This is the 4th time we get to play them this year. So, we're down 1-2 in the series, and it's time for us to split it. So, we're going to prepare tonight. We're going to watch everything, come up with what we need to do to be successful, and we'll do that tomorrow. That's the goal. So.
Well, there you go, the wise words from the man himself over at the Los Angeles Valiant. And Hex, they are currently, in this season, down a single series to the Shock. So they definitely going to repair that record coming into today.
It's always been really competitive between these two teams. We try to stage it as North Cal versus SoCal, but these teams have run tournaments against each other in off seasons before the California Cup happens pretty often between the San Francisco Shock and Los Angeles Valiant. Obviously, their fortunes have gone different from Season 1 to Season 2 to Season 3. This Valiant squad is a really interesting team just coming into this year. If you were a Valiant fan, you're like, oh, cool, new colors, that's interesting. I liked the old ones, I like the new ones. And then you look at the roster and you're trying to do the same thing of like, I liked the old roster, maybe I'll like the new roster. But a complete complete rebuild, but I think over the last several weeks, as they are 4-0 in the last several weeks, a resurgence, and a lot of people are looking at this new roster of like, oh yeah, it just took them time, because there's insane individual talent on this team, and we talked about it already, like KSP, just an aim god. You mentioned that all he does is really play aim trainer in Overwatch. That's all he does as a human being. You can work with that on your roster. Let's take a look at the rest of the starting roster for the Los Angeles Valiant here today, coming in on a really hot streak. A hard-fought match yesterday. It took them 6 matches, I believe, to get through the Paris Eternal to get here, but they're scrappy and they get through it. KSP, of course, on the damage dealer. Shax is going to round that out. Played a lot of Reaper yesterday. Also had one of the better Tracer maps I've ever seen on Gibraltar. Dreamer and McGravy going to be this tank line. Lastro has been clicking heads on support, and Rain is going to round out that lineup as well.
Yeah, they've been looking also scary. And Shax, I think, one of the most scary Tracer players that we have, and he was always kind of known for that in EU, and it was only a matter of time before he was actually picked up and brought over to the Overwatch League. So him and KSP in a lineup together is pretty spicy. You've got a long-range hit scan, you've got someone that's going to be up in your back line, just basically killing your supports before you can even react. Let's have a look at the Shock, though, who they are facing up against in just a moment. One of my most hyped players coming into this season was Arns on that Widowmaker, and just hit scan in general. His aim is just ridiculous, and that's why I'm very excited for this game for sure, him and KSP having the 1v1.
I mean, you look at this San Francisco team being like the top seed in the Overwatch League because of players like Ans on there, but you think of like all that they've already lost and that they don't use. Architect is off this team, Sinatra off of this team. They don't even play Striker. That's how good their damage pool is. It is absolutely insane, and a lot of people are going to be looking for this sniper duo between KSP and Ans. I'm looking forward to some of the other duels that we're going to have, mostly watching Super on tank play against Dreamer on tank. These two are idiots on Reinhardt, and I love it. I mean it in the best way possible. I have an affinity for idiots, being one of them myself, but this is like a battle of who hits the first 180 shatter. They both play super aggressive. Choi Hyobin, the finals MVP from last year, and earned it. Violet has been going nuts on Baptiste. He picked it up because Rascal's playing the other DPS. And then what can you say about Moth? He's just a top 3 support every week, most consistent support player we might have in the entire league.
Yeah, I can't name a more consistent supports player, to be honest. I think him, along with people like Shaz and Big Goose on the Gladiators, is just consistency. Moth is always there supporting his team, building up beats as fast as he possibly can, and having Violet in the backline as well. Like, Moth does basically everything extraordinarily well, right? He's not the most flashy Lucio player in the world when he does hop on the pick, but he is just permanently making sure Violet stays alive, and that's one of your main jobs if you're a Lucio player, okay? You don't always have to go for the Reddit Lucio plays. I know we watch Astro a lot of the time, but you got to protect your other support as well. Moth does that almost perfectly, and the tank line for the Shock as well, like you said, Choi being an MVP, but the Resonant Rhyme one trick, Mr. Super, is definitely someone to watch out for, especially into this series, who's going up against Dreamer, another aggro Reinhardt. Let's jump onto the map pool, though, what maps we will be seeing today. Nepal will be the first map they will be playing. However, if you've only just joined us here in the semi-finals, it is loser picks the map. So if you drop control, you get to pick the next map coming up, which can lead to a little bit of 50-50 hex. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, or the day before, sorry. And do you play something that fits your wheelhouse, or do you play something that the enemy team, doesn't play very well? Normally you'd stray towards the map you prefer playing, of course, but it does lead to a lot of mind games in that selection process as well.
Yeah, I think you're going to see map pools that fit the compositions you want to run, so we're going to see a lot, like if a team subs somebody out, subs someone in, maybe we can divine what the next map will be, but it's such an interesting thing. It's such a nice wrinkle to this tournament that the losing team does get to pick the next map. It makes it very difficult to end up running 3-0s on a team because you're playing into their wheelhouse several times. Now, Control is always our starter here, and Control, a little bit volatile. There's a lot of differing opinions. Even you and I have differing opinions about Control maps, if we like to play them or not. But we're going to kick it off on Nepal. Both these teams with similar records there, and I think the Valiant are really good on Control. They've had to play a lot of it. The Valiant have played a lot of maps, and generally San Francisco doesn't always have to play a lot of maps. If you think all the way back to Season 2, they just 4-0'd people. The fourth map wasn't even ever really mattering for them, so the Valiant are definitely a team that has a lot of practice in the last several weeks.
Yeah, I think Control can be one of the more scrappy game modes, and that's one of the reasons I don't dislike playing it in queue. It's just I feel like I always win the first map and then lose the next 2, which can be quite frustrating.
Yeah, those hurt.
Yeah, they hurt quite a lot. But scrappiness is kind of Los Angeles Valiant's name of the game, especially in the quarters the other day up against Paris. That was a series for the ages, that is for sure. I mean, it was just absolutely insane.
We're going to kick off on Sanctum here.
I ain't going to...
San Francisco ran 76 on Sanctum yesterday. They're off of it now. They ran 76 Torb, but now they're going to run the Ashe and Torb, and Shaxx being ultra aggressive, already trying to get into the back line here.
Okay, well, Lapstro's down first. That's not a good start. Losing one of your supporters and now only have Rain to heal you. You want to look for a big reset here if you're Valiant, I should think. Arns is on the point, mind you, dueling out with the Reaper. He does spot the TP, and the wait, what? Shaxx TP right next to himself, and straight into the line of sight of Arns. Double kill for Rascal's turret as well. Nice little start off for the Shock there, so they do cap the point.
Not the prettiest start there as far as Shaxx's Reaper goes, but that's kind of the style that he plays. You see Shaxx play super aggressive, trying to teleport into people. Maybe some mind games there. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but a nice start for San Francisco. And now this is exactly what you want if you're going to run this lineup for the San Francisco shop, this composition, because now you have your Torb set up, and you can play defensively with the Zenyatta. Zen is kind of a greedy hero right now. It gets extra damage, but Ans goes down first. KSP with a beautiful flank.
Yeah, KSP's a little bit more of a flank now. You can see Moth kind of turning around, making sure he checks in. Immortality Field is down and out, mind you, as KSP does kill it off. Joyben ends up ending his own life, but takes one with him in McGravy. KSP still on the flank, finds 2. That beam is going to make sure Super is sent back to spawn, but the Shock still control the point, as Valiant do end up go for the rotation. However, it's going to be rather dangerous for KSP. He's up against a hit scan in Violet, who's on the sidelines, but already we see Rascal going down, and now a hit scan favorite for KSP. Jumps onto the Ashe, but instantly ends up getting taken out, so transforming back into the Echo, as Valiant now storm the point and manage to find the cap.
Yeah, able to get that one back, and now San Francisco has to make a change here. Moth is going to get off of the Zenyatta, which I mentioned is a bit of a greedy support hero. Shaxx is going to get to the back line, and I think that's why Moth is switched, is so that he can defend against these backline flanks, because that's what Valiant's doing.
Oh no! Moth found him, isolated him on the sides, and ends up pushing him off the map. Although Shaxx is still alive, which is most important. Someone does need to heal him though. Doesn't end up happening, and Choi ends up just finishing off with the spheres. Shock end up going for the recap. 21% for the Valiant, rather scrappy fight. We did mention how control is can just end up like that. And one good thing actually about Shock here, Hex, and we haven't really talked about it just yet, but how good of a comp Shock has right now for just hunkering down in one place and forcing the Valiant to make a move on top of them.
Double shield, long range hit scan, a Torb, and then you have the anti-dive and Moth on the Brigida. They made a couple of changes here to really adjust to the style of the Valiant. That Valiant going in the back line.
Oh, Death Blossom from up above. Doesn't find all too much though. Immortality Field thrown out, as well as the eat coming through from Choi. Big shatter on the sidelines though, but Violet stays alive. Dream and Super end up trading, but KSP on the flank once again. They got to get on the point though, as Valiant are losing time, and Choi comes up with a big flux. 2 people now down. Valiant still have to touch. Self-destruct coming through from a Gravy, and someone is on the point for the Valiant. It is going to be Rain, but that does mean he's not supporting his team. With the beat in hand, the Valiant might still have a chance to come back in this, as KSP ends up finding a kill onto Rascal. It's going to be a transfer on KSP as well.
He's got to be careful.
He's got to be careful, but McGravy's already dead. This is kind of bad news bears for the Valiant right now, but Shaxx is going to be nanoed. He's in the back line. All they need to do is kite. The Valiant end up finding the flip here, Hex, but Shaxx still very low. Someone please heal him. He's been sub 50 HP for the longest time, it feels. Valiant can now play this rather aggressively up onto the up and quite forward, as they do have Super on the ball, who can't really provide too much defense for the rest of his team. Shaq manages to find the kill onto Rascal, and Moth should end the team fight as Shock go for the reset.
Yeah, this is not ideal for San Francisco because they made a lot of hero switches when they thought they were going to be able to come back into it. As notably, you see Super on the Hammond. Anza switched over to the Symmetra, but at 30%, or not Symmetra, excuse me, Sombra, at 30%, he should be able to get an EMP off, and EMP is often thought of as a ultimate win condition. Also, you have Choi Hoban, who's leading his team in final blows at this moment in time, who could just win it with a Flux. He gets such great value out of that ultimate.
Well, absolutely no fear. Shaq's going so low. He's going to teleport away, but McGravy's already dead. Arns is now pressuring the point, so Valiant have to do something. Turret ends up killing Shax off. This might just be it. A rather anticlimactic finish, it feels like. A hack onto the Rhino as well, so he can't use that shatter that he had built up all this time. The Shock not even taking the fight on the point, as Arns found the cap, because no one from Valiant could touch. They end up taking Sanctum and going 1-0 up in control.
I just want to give Violet all the credit in the world. I thought he was actually the one weak point that this team had in Season 2. He played ultra aggressive on the Zenyatta, made too many angles, too many mistakes, but he has picked up the Baptiste mantle really, really well, and I think this hero fits his style the most because it allows him to be aggressive and do a lot of damage. You saw early on, he was getting final blows, he was hitting headshots. He completely denied KSP's duplicate at one point in time because he just dropped it down, but also there towards the end when the Blossom comes in, the only thing the Valiant have to pull it back, and he hits a giant immortality field. Everybody stays alive, everybody stays in it, and that really cemented the first point for them.
Classic comp now as we go on to Village Hex. Bunker down. What is this kind of comp name? Have we got a name for it yet? The May Sim?
It's just the May wall.
So
Like,
May.
I just because May's always been part of this composition on this point because look at these doors, perfect size.
Symmetry. I don't know. Valiant are jumping in. Problem is they have to deal with the Mortality Field first. That wall is going to provide a rather large barrier for McGravy to get to, and he ends up going down. Dreamer as well, just kind of run through. Perfect composition and perfect heroes for the Shock, it feels like you said, especially with the May, it's very hard to get anything done.
And once a team has taken over this point, it gets so hard to get back in here. We'll see if the Valiant make any switches. Their composition's not terrible against it, but against double shield, they don't really have the supports to break that double shield, so they're going to have to just boost in. That's why they're running the Lucio, and it's going to be up to Moth to react to that, disengage, or whatnot. Let's see. We have a Symmetra and a May, I don't know, Ice Light? Light Ice? Something like that?
Light
Sounds like
ice.
a beverage, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm for it.
Can I get one light ice, please? And a side of Shatter. Whoa, super, maybe not. Shatter's now not available for the Shock. They do take out KSP, though. But having a main tank and losing that one fairly early is not too kind of bad for the Shock, as they have one less barrier to kind of work around. Turret's on the ceiling, almost insta-killing Lastro there, but he does end up using the rally. Shax is frozen in the spot, as he can't really do all too much. Yeah, there you go, he's frozen. Luckily enough, though, Dreamer was there to help him out. Blizzard's going to go on point as well as that beat. Everybody's frozen up in the sides. This should be easy pickings now for the Shock. The Immortality Field's going to come out as well to save Violet. Moth ends up taking out his counterpart in Rain as the Shock continue to hold this point. Valiant just struggling so hard from getting anything done. Even blowing ults there. Shax jumps in, used the Death Blossom to try and get something done, but nothing happened at all.
Yeah, Shax went for the carry, and it's just so frustrating against these Symmetra turrets. They slow, they do damage, but mostly they just eat up valuable ammo that you wish you were using on something else. I mean, it just, you saw the Reaper shooting at a Symmetra turret, it just feels bad as Reaper. It's not like you have the biggest clip anyway, and that's bullets that you would rather be punching in to get some health back. And right now at 80%, San Francisco Shock in full control of this point. They're going to have the light wall from Symmetra to block off anything and the supercharger to shoot through it. The Valiant are going to need a giant play from KSP. He's got to find the right dupe and hit probably a shatter or something like that to bring this back for his team.
Seems almost unwinnable right now as well, as Rascal does have Blizzard coming online rather soon. Dream is so low already. They're forced to use the beat to actually engage, and now Rascal can just open this one up. Rascal throws it out on the point. What's KSP really going to do on this clone? Not too much. He ends up getting taken out as the Rhine, and now changing back onto the Echo. Gravy finds a nice bomb in the back line, though. Good start, as Shax also found Rascal just kind of hiding away. Or it looked like an easy teamfight win there for the Shock. Almost got flipped around in a blink of an eye, Hex, as Valiant managed to pick one by one. Shock were concentrating on every 1v1 in that fight completely, and Valiant managed to win all those little 1v1s through the wall and through the Blizzard at the same time.
I think one of the last teams I would try to just take individual 1v1s against would be the Los Angeles Valiant. It's not the right style to play against, but San Francisco, having given up the point for the first time, sitting at 99%, is going to make some changes, because without the point, running a Symmetra into it, not the greatest idea. Paris learned that yesterday.
That is big dynamite as well. Nice shadow on the side. That's everybody on their back. Goodbye, Lastro. Goodbye, Dreamer. And Valiant's hopes and dreams of winning this map are crumbling right before them. The Valiant are scattered all over the place as the Shock jump back onto the point. 99% is here over time as well. Only one person can touch, but no one can get there. Shock would just like that manage to land the Shadow of the Century and take map number 1.
Oh, that's why we love Super. Welcome to the Shatterdome, buddies. You're on the ground, just wins the play. Oh my goodness. But I mean, look, that's going to look flashy, and that's the 99%, but San Francisco just outcomped that. They got to the point on the Sim May strategy. It took Valiant everything they had to come in there and just flip it at 99%. Yes, they won individual duels in that fight, but they also ended up using every ultimate that they had to go in. San Francisco made adjustments on Sanctum when they realized they were getting flanked a lot. They went to the Brigida, smart plays. San Francisco made adjustments there with Ans moving over, Choi moved over to a different hero as well, and then they just get the enormous individual play, the shatter from Super. San Francisco Shock comes out swinging quite literally on map number 1.
Well, Valiant are going to have to channel their inner Halsey retweet in just a moment. Map number 2 coming up soon, guys. Do not go anywhere. Shock versus Valiant.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor.
And by Zip Chair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Hey guys, welcome back. The Valiant are down 1 map, but they're not out just yet. Hex, it's their turn to choose a map. A rather dominating start though from the Shock, I must say, as we started off Nepal and it ended in felt like under a minute.
Yeah, it just seemed like San Francisco really had that map figured out. They ran that very specific style of Torb and long-range hit scan on Sanctum. That worked out for them. And then early on, I think San Francisco doesn't get enough credit for how quickly they make switches and the versatility that they have that allows them to make the switches. Obviously, you know this. As a support player, you would much rather play Zen than Brigida. You just would.
Yes.
It just happens. But if the other team is flanking you constantly, and KSP and Shaq showed that they were just going to flank constantly, well then just move with your team or move with Brigida. You can protect your backline, but you can also just go chunk up front with the rest of your team. If you notice that Shax is teleporting behind you, just rush in, go kill everybody else. Good adjustments there. Didn't have to make a ton of adjustments on Village because they just ran a superior strategy, and it took Valiant a long time to get in, and it took Valiant everything they had to get in. Come back, hit a Dynamite, hit a Shatter, and that's the end of the day. A very quick first map, but now Valiant does have the privilege, given the tournament rules, of selecting the next map that we're going to play on.
Yeah, they're going to want to keep another streak alive as well. Over the last few weeks, after a very specific tweet from Halsey to McGravy, I feel they're going to want to make sure they can channel that inner energy and bring it to this series right now. Of course, like you said, it is 1 map down and it is their choice for King's Row. But McGravy, I'm sure he's got a special place in his heart for that moment, and I'm sure he'll treasure it for the rest of his days. not even Overwatch days, just days in general, I think I would do as well.
Collaboration when? Because people don't know this. It's not
Can
Mick Gravy, it's MC Gravy. Master of Ceremonies Gravy. He is ready to lay down the tracks, you know?
I'm sure he's got a... Wow, those lights in his interview the other day, I'm sure he is a DJ. I wouldn't be too surprised if he does that in his off time, to be fair. But keeping that streak alive is going to be what's important for the fans back home as well. Shot looking also clean in their first match. And let's talk about that real fast as well, because I love the way Shot were playing that. And someone did end up tweeting me in between the games. Symmetra is a comp for Sim and May on Village. Not too bad at all.
Not terrible. I mean,
take
it's better
that over
than
anything else we've got right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's better than the junk I came up with. So I'm always listening to Twitter when I come up with this stuff. Always have better ideas. It's just crowdsourcing. It's just a smart idea to do so. We're going to Kings Row. Makes a ton of sense. Mostly because these teams don't have a ton of maps played on both Blizzard World and what's the other one we have in the pool? Hollywood. I believe San Francisco is 2-0 on Kings Row, and Valiant are 1-1. And we do have a substitution. Smurf is going to come in for Super. Super's just going to go out just riding that high. He's like, I won that map. We're good. I'm out.
Yeah, now if their team ends up losing a couple of maps, you know where that's going straight to. It's Super's head. So, because he wasn't the problem.
Yeah, nothing goes to Super's head, right?
No, absolutely not. Never in a million years. Shot on the offense, of course, and we do have Valiant starting out on the defense. I like KSP, and the way he's playing this Echo is pretty spicy, I must say. Just one of the best ways to kind of break that bunker composition is kind of attacking from all angles and making the supports look each which way. And he was able to find pickoffs. It's just after that, the team wasn't really able to capitalize on those. He is going to stick on the Echo as well on the defense, so we're not even seeing a hit scan coming from him, but the power level of Echo is just so absurd right now. It's not too much of a surprise.
Well, the Valiant seem to have this very particular style of just wanting to take off angles, and whether that's back on supports or just really pressuring off tanks. So KSP is going to be one place, and then they start paying attention to him, and then Shaxx will teleport somewhere else, and they try to just make sure that no one is comfortable. But San Francisco is going to run long-range hit scan with Ant, and Rascal will be playing an Echo of his own.
Immortality field. Sending Violet also low. Does get taken out by Shaxx. That's a very aggressive charge, but Shaxx actually playing frontline in that situation, and look at the cleave! Moth is 70% already. KSP takes two, though. One with a laser, one with a punch to the head. But it doesn't matter, because that AoE damage, not only coming from Rascal, coming from and coming from Moth also. How do you really deal with that? Well, Valiant didn't deal with that also well, and they end up losing the first point. I'm not sure they're going to be able to recontest, although 2 ticks haven't been acquired just yet, and they are fairly close.
I mean, they died quick enough that maybe they can get back in here, and it does seem
Someone
like they
has
have
to touch.
designs on doing so. They got pulled back.
Shaxx is so low as well, he's going to have to get out of there rather quickly. Rascal's going to be able to focus beam him down, and now even Lastro's falling low. You see Rascal just cleaning up the backline, and that's the problem with touching at the last second, right? You don't really have enough time to check corners and check where Rascal is going to be, and then turn around to try and deal with him, because you need to get on the point and touch. As a lot of ult charge now generated over, gifted over to Shock, as they do unlock the payload with 5 minutes to send them through Streets phase.
It's one of the most important abilities in the game is the halts, and you saw Smurf able to get the halt in there at the last second, which yoinked most of the Valiant back. McGravy not in position to be able to eat that one up with the D.Va Matrix, but that pulled everyone back to an extent that Shaxx felt he had to touch point because he wasn't sure if his team was going to get there, and you don't want to be halfway on the point and give it up, and so Shaxx drops down, and he's the first to die because of that halt.
Playing rather fast are the Valiant. Adaptive circuits have been engaged, but KSP instantly jumping out of the Ana clone, and whoops-a-daisy. There you go, there's Bob, there's a Flux, and there's Moth just swinging away. That was a very quick and clean team fight from the Shock. Rascal as well, mind you, did transform into Brig, so was able to build up a rally in no time. As they've kind of sussed out, it feels like, how Valiant want to play, right? They want to make sure they can capitalize on Valiant jumping into them. Rascal changed over to Brig,
now.
Easy peasy.
It's twice now that KSP has gotten 0 value out of his duplicates, and I don't know if maybe he's hitting the wrong targets. It can be kind of tricky sometimes, but definitely Rascal the better duplicate there, and KSP just gets nerfed out of it completely. It's a wasted ult. You rarely see a wasted duplicates from Echo meta.
Goes in, hits Rascal, not bad start at all. Choi's going to go down as well, and now Shaxx is going to control the payload. Shock will be kind of crazy to assault him on there. Yep, easy cleanup. There's no way you're going to be able to win that. Rather quick and clean reset for the Shock. Not too bad at all if you're the Valiant, though. You have Shatter, you've also got the Beat, but I'm actually taking out Rain on the back of it. How is this happening? I don't know. The Immortality Field's going to come out as well.
There's no
KSP
way.
ends up
There's
dying.
no
This
way.
This is actually winnable now for the Shock. They're going to be able to get back in time. All Arns need to do is survive. Well, the solo Shadow's going to secure the kill. 1D for the Shock, but Valiant are still going to have to come back to the point.
And San Francisco's still pushing this. They're still getting pressure on.
Only just managing to touch. That's a teleport. That's a very aggressive teleport from Shax right into the enemy team. No one's dealing with Violet either, mind you. A beat forward to try and isolate Smurf, but they're not able to do it just yet. Immortality Field comes out and saves it for the time being. A rally as well is going to stack all that armor, and Shock just baiting in the Valiant. Rascal comes up with 2, and the Valiant looking completely lost, Hex.
Yeah, it's not looking great. Like, San Francisco is so good at catching aggression because you remember, like, Season 2 was when they dominated in the GOATS meta. And the GOATS meta wasn't always just about unfettered aggression, it was about knowing when to catch the other team's aggression. Los Angeles Valiant really only have 1 speed, and it's 5th gear. Let's go, let's fight, let's do this. But San Francisco is backing up just enough to get respawns in, to play around their heels, and they catch it so easily, so quickly. 4 minutes left to push this last point, and we have a Widow sighting on the field from Ans.
Oh boy, here we go. Nice little sightline as well. KSP transforms into the Sigma and sets up a nice little flanking angle. Speaking of flanks, that's exactly what McGravy's doing now, but the rest of his team are just going to fall over. Shax and Dream are already dead. Can KSP do anything with this ult? He manages to maybe find one, but no, the Immortality Field yet again from Violet is going to save the rest of the team, and now it's going to be the slow trudge to 3rd point as Valiant are needing to touch. They're not going to be able to set up, it feels like. Dream is going to have to hit the shatter of his career.
And they have sights now too. Ans is going to be in a perfect spot. It's a great last point for Widow. They're going to have to play in this far corner, and that's going to allow Rascal to maybe swoop over top, hit some stickies. They're going to open it up with
Self-destruct. Ans is already dead as well. Perfect shield from Choi to save the rest of his team. Immortality Field down for Violet, and he ends up falling over to Rain. Spawn advantage in the favor of the Valiant as well, so they are in a very good spot, taking down a couple of people. Rain does end up falling, but it shouldn't matter all too much. A couple of meters does remain, though, for the Shock to actually get that payload in and for them to go to the next round. Valiant have got a couple of ults, mind you, for this next fight. Hex, Shock's ult bank looking a little bit more bare.
It's a little bit grim. The Valiant have won the fights that they had to stabilize on. The first one on right before 2nd point is so important to win on Kings if you don't want to just get a world record set on you. And now they've been doing very well with their ultimate bank. McGravy's self-destruct have bought them all the space in the world.
What? Just like that, instantly, 2 kills come through for the Shock. And Dreamer's shadow got interrupted as well. Desperation for the Valiant. You can really feel it right now as the payload's going to go in. Like, McGravy's going to die late here. He's not going to be able to come back out on the D.Va. Dreamer's ult interrupted. Changed over to the ball for a brief moment to try and touch. Rain has beat. He's going to have to use it to get there. The holt's going to be available for Smurf, but they still manage to touch. The flux from Choi lifting everybody up into the skies. Dreamer, KSP, and Shax are already dead. 1 minute and 54 seconds in the time bank for the Shock. The Valiant made them pay for it just a little bit, but still not a bad time at all for Kings Row.
Very well done from San Francisco, and it just happens that fast when you have the damage dealers they do. But I really like Choi's play there at the end. Kings Row used to see a lot of Ryan, a lot of Zarya, even some Winston, and with those 2 doors, especially on hybrid maps, you think of Hollywood as well, you have closeout ults from the tank. So you grab a door, you put a Primal Rage on one, you shatter the door. But what Choi does there is he lets them in, let them touch the cart, and then grab fluxes them off of it, and that's how San Francisco able to finish out that fight. San Francisco sets an extremely fast time at 2 minutes. The Valiants are going to have to match it. The Valiant really only won 2 fights there, and one of them came off a solo shatter. So the ultimate compliments in Overwatch are being called a hacker and getting solo grabbed or solo shattered. It means you're a problem, and they're dealing with you in the best ways possible.
God, that's annoying. Even as a support, sometimes I've been solo grabbed. I'm like, why? I mean, I understand, because you take a support out of the game, especially if I'm playing Arna, it kind of makes sense, right? But it's still frustrating, nonetheless. Arns did suffer that fate, but they did end up coming round. That was a rather long and extended team fight at point number 2. It didn't really feel like it ended. Oh.
That is a swaggy Orisa if I've ever seen one.
Yeah. I'm just like, what are you doing? Please play the game, Smurf. Thank you. Arns is going to be on the Ashe this time around, but Rascal's still on the same thing, say on the Echo. Shax's not really wanted to jump anything long-range hit scanning or even a Tracer. Is just way too dangerous to actually jump over to that pick, especially against the comp Shocker running. Putting trust into his Reaper. has been a Valiant's motif to start off.
Yeah, it's just 5, and then Rascal is searching for his counterpart here. Maybe trying to lock in a duel with KSP.
Pew, pew, pew. It does seem rather... There's the beam in the air. Oh, the sticky bombs don't do almost anything. Rascal winning the 1v1 versus KSP, and the rest of the shot winning the 5v5 in the corridors as well. Again, we spoke about it just a moment ago, Hex, but what a Valiant love to do right now is run at the Shock, and Shock have almost the perfect composition to do so. Orisa can stand there fortified, hold M1. It's almost perfect, right? And then you have Sigma, who also does AoE damage, plus the Brig. Like, it feels almost impossible to really get anything done here. Dreamer needs to cleave and build up their shadow instantly. Otherwise, it's a losing battle if you're in just a continuous brawl with the Shock's comp.
And Valiant should have learned this from tape review yesterday, because Dallas tried to do this to San Francisco a couple times on the high ground, and San Francisco just holds their ground, backs up a little bit. Sometimes will just drop the amplification matrix, but they use all their abilities. One of the last places I would want to fight the Shock is in a small corridor, but Valiant seem really, really intent on doing so.
Yeah. Rain dies as well to Choi.
But I mean, your other option is to try to like push the point and just let Ons get all the pot shots in the world on you and Rascal above. So, I mean, it's a tough choice to make, but I think the Valiant are going to have to try to just rush at him.
Well, that's what they're doing again. Dynamite, how much is it going to do? I'll tell you how much. A lot. Beam is going to come through as well from Rascal, who's holding the high ground, although KSP does take out Arns. They do manage to finally dislodge him. Couldn't get the bomb off either, mind you, as the Valiant now jump onto the point. KSP may have gone down, but still Valiant with 1 tick on the board. Almost make that 2. There you go. Now the Shock have to do something. Rascal changes over to the D.Va, earns himself a self-destruct, throws it in. Shax and Dream going to have to be careful, instantly killing off Rain, and now only 1 support to back the Valiant up. Lastro is rallying, so a little bit extra armor on top is going to be good for them, but not anymore as the Shock clean sweep the Valiant off the point, but not before they can get 2 ticks.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 90 seconds left, though, but just such nice play. Rascal just pops in that self-destruct, and it goes underneath the grab, so the Valiant are lifted to heaven and drop right into hell. They lose a couple of people there, and now San Francisco at full fighting force. They've got Rally, they'll have Supercharger, and then there's always a Bob to hit the point. Los Angeles Valiant, though, coming up with some decent ultimates of their own. Dreamer with the Shatter, going to try to be big up here. Looks like they're just going to try to rotate to Corridor again.
Yeah, waiting
These
for
setups
speed
are
boost.
taking a while.
They are indeed. 1 minute remains for the Valiant. They're going to try again. They've got ults though, that's the thing. Supercharger coming out, Dreamer's shield almost instantly dying. They use the beat to surge themselves forward, and Dreamer needs to find something here, but Orisa turning golden does mean he can't really go for the shatter. KSP finds the kill onto Rascal as they still try and pressure this point, but it's little to no avail right now as there's only 1 person on it. Capture time isn't too quickly. Moth has found himself in a very sore situation, now going back to spawn as Shax finishes him off. Smurf jumping back down to the point, and now a Death Blossom on top, more defensively this time. Smurf and Arns end up falling, and finally the Valiant have done it. They managed to crack the first point wide open and add 3 minutes to their time bank moving forward.
And they're able to hold on to some really important ultimates too. Going through that corridor, they finally crack through, but it makes sure that Ons doesn't get any value out of the Bob. The Bob was just sitting on the point. It's kind of funny, Dreamer actually went to charge Bob and ended up missing. Don't know how you miss stationary Bob, or why you would even charge Bob. He's a good guy.
What? Okay, Russell's going in. I mean, you might as well. KSP is not there. Ends up getting taken out rather quickly though, so ultimates, a little bit wasted I feel there, but hey-ho.
But it does buy them the space to get in this position. San Francisco trying to hold Archway, one of the best spots to hold on Kings. And they get it. They get the spot that they want.
Yeah, it's perfect for the comp as well, right? Ooh, Rascal. Those bombs do so much damage. Sticky bombs are so good. Rally to engage for the Valiant. Everybody lifted up in the skies though. Rain's going to have to be rather careful. He's so close to that beat. Wants to save it for the oncoming aggression from the Shock, who have baited them almost around the corner. Arns has also got the Bob online. The Shadow does hit the floor, but the Immortality's field, saving them once again. Violet has just been on point this game for its entirety. Bob is now in the corner, just doing so much damage. Even the window being thrown out as well in the corridor. Dreamer didn't stand a chance, neither did Lastro. And Arns taking pop shots at KSP. Shock can now set up once again in this choke point.
I mean, the Echo duels are so interesting because it's really whichever Echo gets the other one down to 50% first. First person to beam wins. So, some stuff going on in chat.
I lose, you better, lol.
True. I think it was a little Brigitte versus Brigitte matchup there.
Yeah.
They're talking about.
Brig 1v1's the most
Yeah.
The most punishing ones.
eternal
Mortality once
pillow
again
fight.
coming out. Beat's going to come through as well. Smurf just surviving this fight. Look at him running around. Finally ends up getting taken down by Shaq. Survived for way too long. The rally plus immortality and the healing coming out from Shot was just absurd onto Smurf right there. But they're now going to have one less shield, and Shax has the Death Blossom ready and waiting. Rascal's going to come up big, though, and change into the Rhine and actually provide an additional shield now. Smurf's going to be able to come back with the Bongo if they're not careful. The Shadow does hit the ground in Immortality Field once more, making sure Rascal can't die. The Death Blossom on the ground only manages to kill Rascal's clone, and Arn's just free-firing in the back, takes out Dreamer. They've halted Valiant once again on this second point, delaying McGravy's spawn just a little bit there as well. But 30 seconds now remains for Valiant to claim a few more meters to get it to second.
It's final push, and a lot of the times when the Valiant has really needed something, McGravy's have been at least able to open it up. Now, ideally here with only a Shatter and only a Self-Destruct, you send the Self-Destruct over top, maybe get the shield turned, and then Dreamer can hit something huge. But this is it. Do or die for the Valiant, or they're down 0-2.
Opening up with a supercharger for the Shock, though. Bob's going to come out as well. There's the self-destruct in the backline like you were talking about, but Arn's already taken out Shax. This is going to be it. The Shadow hits the ground, 2 people down, but Smurf just standing guard straight in front of him, not letting anybody move. Lastro's going to go down to Bob. Another kill as well with the Dynamite as Violet is just sitting behind his tanks, just taking pop shots. He doesn't need to heal. The Shock have wiped the Valiant, and just before second point, they're going to get held. Shock now 2-0 up in the semis.
I don't know who shoots more bullets for the San Francisco Shock, whether it's Ans or it's Violet, but he usually goes nuts on it. McGravy, kind of a self-roast there, says he's going for the world record of D.Va deaths. But the San Francisco Shock seem to always have the people in the right place, right time. Can't say enough about their supports. Violet's immortality fields have been going nuts, and Joyobin is proving why he's the MVP. He seems to have Gravitic Flux up constantly when they need it. And I think overall, you got to say Rascal is winning that DPS duel. He's winning the Echo duel. He just seems to get more value out of his duplicates. I can't really recall a giant play KSP has made on this duplicate, but Rascal seems to always get something done with his.
Yeah, Rascal is just kind of a master at all when it comes to heroes, and something that was talked about quite a lot when Echo came out is what pro is going to master it first. People like Architect and Rascal can seemingly play everything.
Yeah.
Is a perfect, it's just a perfect hero for them because they can just do so much on it. Even Rascal changing into the Brig in the second point, I was a bit confused, but you're right, they gained so much space from it, and they were able to hold choke once again. Valiant just unable to break this this Testudo formation at the back, right? They're just protecting Violet so well. I said it right at the very end. Violet's not healing because he doesn't need to. There's just so much damage coming out already that the enemy team and the enemy supports are just put under such strain, Hex.
Yeah, and Violet will just solo window too. I mean, the comp doesn't really need to utilize the window too much. I guess you could put it in front of Smurf, but he's fine just being, oh, guys, I'm going into DPS mode, and Moth is like, it's fine, I'm up here holding M1, I got everybody, we're good. And then Rascal's like, well, I guess I'll be a Brigida too. Violet keep clicking on stuff, but a lot of damage put out from him. I think he's really found his own in Baptiste, and also it's just a hero that's really good right now. The immortality fields were on point, so he's not neglecting his support duties. He's all that, and then I guess the old saying is all that in a bag of chips. Well, all that and a bunch of headshots is what Violet's giving you.
Well, now Shock 2-0 up in the series. We're going to jump over to Watch Point. Can the Valiant turn it around? We'll have to wait and find out.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Rank up with America's largest 5G network. Switch to T-Mobile today. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome to our first game break presented by Chingles Groove. Chingles Groove. Cheez-It Grooves. I have no idea where that one came from.
Deep breaths.
Sounds good too, though. Cheez-It Grooves.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little distracted right now. A bit scatterbrained because I am angry. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
But I am angry. I am past the disappointment. I am very upset. I wanted this to be a very close match, and that is not what is being delivered right now. Valiant. I want to discuss the comms first. Costa, help me out here. To me, it just looked like Valiant tries at all costs to avoid playing into a mirror match. Like, they're not going for any other picks such as the Widowmaker or a Tracer, just nothing like that. They're sticking to their Reaper, Echo, and it is not working.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of the Lucio Brig, Echo Reaper from them yesterday, and it can be viable in certain situations when you're playing the Brawl vs. Brawl. It does have its aspects that make it really good. But Shock is just being like, you want to play this? You want to run at us? Okay, we're just going to bunker down super hard. They're playing the Brig, the BAP, the Sigma, the Torp. They're playing everything. They're hard countering the Valiant, and they just refuse to switch, and it's really bad, and it looks really bad. On top of that, if you consider how the LA Valiant got into these semi-finals, it is off the back of Shax's great Tracer play, off the back of KSP's insane Ashe and Widow. But we haven't seen any of that today. Why are they playing against their strengths and playing against, they're getting counter-comped and they're not making the adjustments? This is not the LA Valiant that we know and, the ones that we're praising so much.
Yeah.
Is that a fear for not wanting to go into a mirror match against Ans's Widowmaker, etc.? Like, is that it?
I mean, it certainly could be, but talk to me here, Costa. I don't think that's really the way you need to look at things. You need to look at your strengths and what you do best, and then sort of go with that. I mean, you know that San Francisco is an incredibly well-rounded team, and they can play so many compositions, and they have fantastic individual skill. You need to play at your very peak level in order to beat San Francisco, and I don't think Valiant are doing that right here in this series so far.
You need to play your game. As soon as you start letting the other team play their game because you're scared of something, you've already lost the match. You're not going to win playing someone else's style. And that's what the San Francisco Shock are great at, and why they have been champions is because they have their style and they force people to play their game. LA Valiant need to find a way to stop them from doing that.
Reinforce. Looking at the second map here, King's Row was the choice from Valiant. Do you think that makes a lot of sense given the composition they're seemingly sticking with?
Actually, I don't. Like, it sort of plays into this composition with, like, the Reaper and Echo, and it's sort of what we saw yesterday. So I don't completely agree with the map pick. I mean, I'd love to ask Gunby and Packing 10, because, as I said in the pre-show, I respect these two guys. I think they've done a great job with this squad so far this year. And you always... Well, not always, but sometimes you have to give the players and the coaches the benefit of the doubt. So there was certainly a game plan going into King's Row, but, looking at the gameplay, it was just so hard to see what that game plan was and what the idea was, because they got stomped, honestly. I mean, Rascal was free reign on the Echo throughout the entire thing, and we said it many times, right? Rascal is the best Echo in the league, and you just can't let him roam like that.
Yeah, no, he pretty much went uncontested. Now, guys, whilst we watched the Valiant just running at the Shock time after time after time, unsuccessfully so, we did see a lot of patience coming out of Shock. They took their engagements really well, and that is why they made it into our crunch time presented by Cheez-It Grooves. Yay, nailed it. Guys, take it away.
So this is a sick disengage from the San Francisco Shock, and they're really recognizing what the Valiant are trying to do here, right? Because Valiant, they have a Lucio and a Brigitte support composition. Not a ton of sustained healing throughout. I mean, you do a great job of like AoE healing around your tanks, like in a group, right? But the Valiant's only choice here is to run at their opponents. But it's a super sick disengage from the San Francisco Shock, and then they pull up the amplification matrix, eerily similar to what they did against Dallas yesterday, and then they just capitalize when that Lucio speed boost runs out. And I mean, I just want to watch that again, because I mean, our replay guy Warren did a fantastic job at just capturing the disengage there. That looked so slick. But yeah, I mean, this just demonstrates what happened throughout the entire King's Row, in my opinion. where San Francisco Shock, they recognized what Valiant were trying to do, they disengage accordingly, and then just turned the fight on its head. So very impressive play from San Francisco.
The thing I want to highlight here as well is we all praise Rascal about being the best Echo in the world, and the Valiant come in with a strategy which is literally ignore the Echo and run at the front line. I don't know, we looked at the Rascal stats against KSP before. It doesn't seem to be working because Rascal is just going to town. Free range, shooting at everyone from the skies. So it's just great play by the San Francisco Shock, understanding their win condition and then playing around it.
Do you expect the Valiant to just continue running this comp, or do you think that after the first half they have to switch it up?
Please switch.
I really hope not. If they come out and play the exact same comp, I'll just be incredibly disappointed.
Yeah.
I want to see them go down playing what you're good at. I want to see KSP take on UNS. I want to see them match up against each other. Don't go down just playing a suboptimal comp.
Hanamura is going to be hard, though. Because it's point B especially, I mean, it's pretty hard to make that tracer work, etc. We've seen some teams make it happen, but it's going to be a grind from here. And, I mean, reverse sweeping at this point against San Francisco, you got to set this up like it would be one of the best reverse sweeps ever, because that would be an incredible achievement, right? So I don't want to say it's impossible, because it's never impossible, but, man, is it going to be a tough road for Valiant moving forward to the second half.
All the more impressive would it be if they actually get it done. But let's just hope they're coming out with something for that second half. Valiant and the San Francisco Shock, our first semi-final match of the day. We're heading into the second half of that.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
Welcome back, and it may look a little bit one-sided right now, Hex, but maybe if it's taught us anything, it's that reverse sweeps can and probably will happen. Valiant fans, make sure you're hanging in there right now. You are down 2 maps, but you can reverse sweep. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Pause and if your tweet, of course, from McGravy, so we'll have to wait and see.
If you're a Valiant fan, you're kind of used to the never say die attitude. If you're a Valiant fan that's stuck around with all the roster changes and everything, color changes, you're pretty happy with how this team's been performing anyway on that 4-map win streak. Looking, I mean, they're already going to get another bonus win just for making the semifinals, so you got to be happy with the turnaround they've had this season, but also the turnaround that they've had in other series where it looks like they're not going to win at all. Then whatever happens, sometimes we hit this halftime point 2 maps in, and they get some coaching, talk about it, and then they just kind of hit the gear and hit the ground running. Although the San Francisco Shock are a different animal. The San Francisco Shock don't really let up on things. They will go for the jugular. They will try to close this out as quickly as possible. But look, I mean, I didn't think last night's finals were going to go the way they did, but they did. Anything can happen. Like I said, we are in peak Overwatch season. I'm just kind of rooting for more maps. As much as I think San Francisco could probably close it out here, part of me is rooting for Valiant just because it means more Overwatch.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that every single time, actually, we have a stomp, I'm like, just more maps, please. Just give me more Overwatch to cast, because it is also fun.
Yeah. People always ask, like, would you root for a team? What's your favorite team to root for? I'm like, I root for whoever's losing so we can get more maps. Like, usually, I pretty much just want to be watching and casting Overwatch as much as possible.
Well, Shock are up 2-0, and that does mean Valiant do get to choose the map once again. It will be Hanamura as the next map we are jumping into for our assault. Hanamura, we see stalls for days, Hex, and it feels like a never-ending situation. I think, was it yesterday? I think we saw, like, what felt like a 17-minute stall. In reality, I think it was about 2 minutes or so. People were slowly but surely trickling out, earning an ult here and there and throwing, a beat, a rally or whatever. Wrecking Ball, obviously, almost a perfect stall hero. With the amount of people that are around him, obviously, he gets more shielding when he hits his E, so it could be quite frustrating taking him out. But Hanamura is definitely one of those maps. If there's any point to hold someone on, it's Hanamura point A or point B. Hanamura is a pretty deadly map, I find, in solo queue. It either goes one way, you get stomped, or the other way, you hold for eternity.
It's been kind of crazy, though, the stalls we've seen on point A, because generally you think about Assault that you're going to stall out point B because that's where your respawns are and everything's a little bit closer and better for the defense to be able to stall out Assault maps. But the stalls we've seen on Hana point A have been very odd. Obviously, yesterday the best stall in history came out when Philadelphia stalled out Lijiang Tower Gardens. Jake said there's a 1% chance they brought it back. Well, Jake called that 1%. So the map records going into Hanamura, this was the Los Angeles Valiant pick because they lost Kings Row. San Francisco's undefeated on Hanamura, but the only other options to choose from in the pool were Volskaya, in which San Francisco is still undefeated, they have a draw on, and Temple of Anubis, where there's no data on the San Francisco Shock. So the Valiants choose their best assault map. It just happens to be the San Francisco Shock best assault map as well.
Taking the high ground.
Well, Shock are on the defense first. Arn's on the way to make it. That's what I want to see. They also got Rascal on May. Surprise, surprise. May's pretty good on this map. I like choice pick of the D.Va here, though. I will say that. He can very much help Arns just almost instantly. Thruster cooldown obviously was buffed and then nerfed ever so slightly, but it's still very, very short cooldown. So they're very much expecting McGravy to jump onto the D.Va to make sure they can try and subdue Arns and have KSP have a little bit of an easier time, but that's why Choi is on the D.Va, I think.
Well, this was the battle that was promised, and maybe we'll at least get to see one duel before they switch off of it, but KSP versus Arns on the Widowmakers is what we wanted to see.
Very harsh sweep in. Super is going to get stunned. And a perfect counter pin there as well from Super to make sure he doesn't get slammed into the wall. Dreamer gets his head clicked on as Arns does take him out of the fight. Super's struggling to get back onto high ground, but that'll do. Rain ends up with the assassination kill. However, Choi is just trying to pay attention to the main gate, and Rain finds another kill. Are you serious? 2 kills now for Rain? Maybe a third even? No, McGravy's going to be able to clean it up, but Rain has already done enough damage in this fight to make it very winnable for the Valiant.
This is over. You're not going to get back here to respawn, and they're going to toss in Dreamer on the ball just so he can get back and make sure that there's no other ball, but my goodness, just don't play close to the edge on Hanamura first point A. That's kind of rule number 1, but a couple people do. Rain comes in there, has one of his biggest plays, well, of the season so far, I think you would say, given the stakes of this. And now Los Angeles going to be able to roll in here. KSP ended up getting his infrasight here, so he's going to just kind of lock down Ans for a little bit. And they can roll in here with Rally, hit a barrier follow-up. San Francisco doesn't have much to work with. They have to play this a little bit slow until they can get Shatter up and maybe Blizzard.
That's a beautiful wall, just kind of isolated, make sure Super doesn't get run over. As the rally is building up for both sides now. Self-destruct launch in from McGravy right towards the spawn. Can he catch anything? He's not just around that corner. That was so close. Super lays down the shadow. Didn't really quite find all of anything as KSP does click on him and gets to take him out of the game. 5 minutes remain for the Valiant, but they are steamrolling onto the point. Arns come back with a little bit of revenge onto Rain. Manages to kill him off. Spawn advantage, of course, are in the favor of the Shock as the Blizzard does make sure they can't touch it for the time being, but KSP does manage to kill 2 as Dreamer is still on the point contesting.
Super does a great job, takes out KSP. It's one of the benefits of using that Wrecking Ball. You can get up, use that mobility to really shut down the enemy sniper, and that's going to be it. And they were very close to getting some permanent progress. We refer to it as a tick, but all the progress will revert, and San Francisco has held. It cost them nearly everything they had, though. Super had tried to throw in a Shatter earlier, had to turn his back, and that's when he got sniped. There's going to be an opposing Shatter coming out, and the Valiant can play this a little bit slow if they want to rally in. Shatter, Death Blossom, they've got plenty to work with. San Francisco's going to have to rely on Violet and Choi Hyobin to try to slow this one down.
Still holding high though. They did use a lot in that last engagement. Now it's Dreamer with a Shatter advantage over Super. SP taking a very aggro angle, but he can, to be fair. He has 2 shields in front of him, including that Brig. Now he spots out 1 in the high ground. He takes an icicle to the head, forced to back off. Self-destruct launched up point. Rain just wall ride straight into it. With the Shadow from the back's going to be good though. Violet and Joy end up going down. The Death Blossom as well to try and clear out everybody else. Super and Moth end up falling as well. The Valiant rushing onto the point. KSP takes out Rascal as well. It's going to be easily 2 ticks, but can it be a third? Choi's going to come back on the Wrecking Ball for some additional time, but Arns gets taken out as well. And now the re-engage from the Shock as they do steamroll on, but the issue is they haven't got much to back them up. Only this rally to see them through. Shax ends up taking out Super after he's charged straight into the wall. The Blizz is going to separate them for the time being, but that's all she wrote now, I think, for the Valiant, as Dreamer and Shax end up going down.
It's been a couple times now that Rascal has gotten his Blizzard up just in time to save his team. They're going to be able to stall out McGravy too. Do they have a Ryan on the field? Maybe charge here if you can? Nope. Just kind of swing away. Just fine. The clock goes down for the Valiant, under 3 minutes now, but some permanent progress put on the board at 69%. Nice. And McGravy and Dreamer are going to have their ultimates pushing in for the Valiant, but really, you just have to deal with Rascal first, because even at 40%, I'm guessing he gets his ultimate going towards the next fight. And it seems like Violet has gotten ultimate every single fight.
Yeah, mind you, we didn't actually mention it just yet, but of course, Smurf is out and Super is in. Dreamer's been having the better of him thus far. Has a Shatter over Super once again. There's the rally to start out the fight. Nice bio grenade though onto Dreamer to start it out, but he's going to get protected. All that armor's very hard to chew through, but not too hard for Super, as I say that. There you go, and that is the fight over already. 2 minutes still on the board. Hanamura, like we mentioned before, just such a defender-favored map on the second point is actually kind of insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really early on. Once you lose your main tanks like that, that one is just it. And it's actually really nice for San Francisco to be able to stabilize like that, because now the Los Angeles Valiant have to push into a Blizzard. Rascal did get at that fight, but didn't need it to save his team, unlike the prior 2 fights. And Moth on this Ana is a really nice pick, because if McGravy tries to dive Ons, that leaves up a giant hole for hit a giant bio grenade, an anti-heal, and let the rest of his team swing away and push on it, and that's going to be the big advantage the Valiant have. What you're giving up is the disengage or the engagement power of a Lucio. But playing defense on Hanamura, I don't really know if you need the Lucio here, so I think Moth on the Ana is the right pick.
Oh, spotting out that bullet trail. There's the Shadow. Oh, it's a big one. And the Blizzard laying on top as well. Shax could barely get to his feet. before he was taken out. Lastro taken out as well. Just give up, buddy. You've only got one more push to make it. KSP with no HP. He ends up taking out Rascal. But still a delayed death there could cost them a little bit. That's an extra, what, 10 to 15 seconds potentially burned off their time bank now as they are waiting for him to spawn.
The bank is empty for the Los Angeles Valiant now, and they're going to have to dig deep and try to find something if they want to try to close out Hanamura here, but they're going to have to do it against a Flux. I would imagine that Choi might go to the right side here. His right side, actually where you see KSP and McGravy setting up, and then he can get everyone coming up in the stairs, but choosing to stay up with his team because he needs to provide that shield so they don't get picked off.
Aggressive shadow, or aggressive charge even from Dreamer. And a boost onto Super though. Dreamer just gets carved like a pumpkin on Halloween. Violet's going to go down though. Now only one healer available, but it's Moth on the Ana. He's going to be able to sustain people through this. I can imagine Rain trying to assassinate someone in the backline, but it's going to get naded. Moth is going to be able to take him out as well as Shock. Just clean, sweet Valiant on the point. Ball even from Dreamer to try and get back in time, but this is going to be it. 79% on the board for the Valiant as OT is here. Rascal finishes off Dreamer. And now it will be the Valiant's chance to defend, but Shock with a very clear win condition here, Hex. About 80% is all they need to go to the finals.
And we've been bigging up Violet, or at least I have throughout the entire match, and he's second on his team in final blows, only behind Rascal, beating out Ons, beating out Super. Violet has capped people to the number of 7 final blows for himself. He's been a treat to watch on Baptiste if you like that ultra-aggressive BAP play. Now, if you play with an ultra-aggressive BAP in Plat, you don't like it, but it's fun to watch at the Overwatch League level. In San Francisco, very close to closing out this map. Get 80% on second, and they will advance to the May Melee Finals. And it just seemed like once the Valiant pushed on their very first push and ended up not getting it back because of some nice stall and a blizzard coming out, it never seemed like they were in a good spot after that because San Francisco was able to cycle their ultimate so quickly. And to be dead honest, Super was getting just pumped full of healing by Moth and got the better of Dreamer about 3 times in a row.
It was perma-pocketed in that last fight. Like, there was no healing going anywhere else. Moth was only shooting Super and then nanoing him, right?
Yeah,
but that's the duel you want to win because
that's
him
how
versus
Super.
Dreamer.
That's how Super plays, and that's how you want to play with Super. You let him just be ultra aggressive, and you make sure that he feels safe. And that's the Super that we saw last year. It's a Super that we see very successfully play Reinhardt. You know how he's going to play, and as long as you know how he's going to play, you can adjust for it.
Scouting Sombra, I want to say, for Rascal. Have to wait and see if he does zip back. There he is. Whoop. And he's gone. Straight over to the Echo. Kind of the comp they are more comfortable with now, Hex. But they are going up against Shax and his almighty Torb.
The Widow versus Ashe is a matchup that generally favors the Widow. Except the utility, the Ashe is really nice. You get the Bob in here, nice dynamite. And I was going to say, generally, you would think that, well, actually, this fight's probably over-ish.
Definitely not anymore. Rain is going to take so long to actually come back now. Valiant, because they don't have a Lucio, like, Rain is going to... He can jump over the outside to try and get it back a little bit quicker, but Shock definitely have the advantage now. They can push on forward. They only have Zen healing on the side of the Valiant for about 10 more seconds or so.
Yeah, and that's not much. The orb doesn't do anything. Zen is best healing when he's transcending, so he's going to try to get it up, get a lot of damage in, but right now, though, the Shock took a little bit long to get in here, so the Valiant are going to get their healers back.
Oh, there's the window, though. Violet looking for more final blows. Immortality Build is going to get thrown out as well. He's going to go fairly low, however, so has to play a little bit more safe here. But Shax goes forward, almost gets him with a hammer kill, it looked like, but Rascal, 2 kills, 1 beam. Lastro and Rain end up going down. No healers now for the Valiant. Every bit of damage is permanent. That's why we want to see Rascal on Echo. Such a perfect hero for his just style of play and just for the player himself. Rascal killing off KSP also. They're going to be able to cap first point now, Hex. A move on to second with just an enormous time bank.
Rascal's Echo has been the X factor here. You think all the way back on King's Row and that highlight we showed of the Shatter, and he dominated King's Row. He just had a better Echo than KSP, and he's just been getting so much more value out of the duplicates. San Francisco in a great spot. Choi, Super, Ons, Rascal should all get ultimates here, and I love that they're running the...
Oh my
Never mind.
word.
I mean, it's just a head on legs. It's not the most impressive shot, but like, Alan's taking out Jax enormous.
It's bad news though. Look at that, instantly charging through the flux to make sure everybody can't move as the supercharger comes down. It's just like a shooting gallery. And now they're going to jump onto the point and bunker down.
Bob's in the
KSP's going to
pit.
be able to take out the duplication from KSP, but it's not going to matter. The Bob doing a lot of damage, yes, but is it going to be enough? It might just be though, but McGravy gets knocked out of his ult. Lastro eventually kills off Super on what seemed to be a perfect engagement from the Shock. Lastro comes back, taking 2 lives.
Oh,
the
that's
Valiant
brutal.
are holding on for the time being, but look at that percent.
That's brutal. That's what I was just thinking of. 0.1% away from holding on to that last 33 1/3. That's where the ticks rotate up to. So close, but now they revert back to 33%. They do, however, have 4 minutes to not even full cap this point. And my man Violet's going to have Amplification Matrix. Moth moves over to the Zen. Can be a little bit risky, but they are having double shield, so he's not the perfect target for KSP that a Zen normally would be.
Oh, help Moth. Someone help Moth. He is stuck. He's going to be fine. Oh, Arns, you got to be careful. Yep. Oh, Lastro's dead, but Moth is down though, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Valiant have used that supercharger as well, so they're definitely going to win it on the damage war. Not the healing war though, is of course that Immortality field just saving them for the time being. Arns claims yet another life plus the Immo field as well down for the Valiant, but Choi ends up falling as well. So they're kind of getting bled dry here, but still Valiant with the spawn advantage. So they're okay for the time. Dreamer taking a rather aggressive position, ends up getting booped off and is actually going fairly low as well. Luckily receives the Harmony Orb too. Transcendence even forced out here. And a big body block on to Super in that corridor. Although I say that, the Immortality field is still going to save him as they kill Lastro straight out of his ult. And now McGravy's going to go down as well. It's a snowball here for the Shock as they're now able to rotate to the point. They're going to be able to get another tick as well. KSP's on the side. He gets 1v1 by Violet and that's it! The Shock! The Shock again! Are you serious?
You don't want to fight him on the stairs. It doesn't matter if you're trying to body block or do anything. The San Francisco Shock are so good. When you can't see what's going on your screen, just assume San Francisco is winning that fight. When everything is clumped up and everything is brutal, because they know exactly the order of operations to hit. They know when you're going to get the charge in, when the shield's going to be up, when Choi Hyobin is going to use his little defense matrix ability, and then what a fitting way to close it out as Violet is able to 1v1 KSP. That fight was probably over anyway because Blizzard was about to come online, and Blizzard is the closeout ultimate you want for Assault. The Los Angeles Valiant played very well in this month, in this tournament. They brought it back. They gave us some great moments of comebacks with the San Francisco Shock. Well, if you don't know why that number 1 is next to their name, now you do.
Shock with a clean 3-0 do manage to secure themselves a spot in the finals a little bit later on today. That last fight, it looks so good for the Valiant, but then it does definitely feel like it's always looking good for the Valiant, and then Shock are like, oh wait, by the way, we clicked button. Super should have been dead, but it was Violet and everybody else kind of throwing their whole selves at Super to try and make sure he stays alive. Our player of the match, though, presented by Xfinity, is going to be Rascal. Shocker, to be honest. His Echo has just been sublime throughout the weeks we've seen him play it, and just opening up the first point as well. 1 beam, 2 support kills. What more could you really ask from a DPS player?
My vote was for Violet. I think that's pretty obvious based on my commentary throughout this, but I think I was shown the numbers of what Rascal did on King's Row, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Ben and Matt, for pointing out the fault in my stars. So it was 11-0 duplicate kills on King's Row from Rascal's Echo versus KSP's Echo, and it absolutely crushed that map. And then you see his versatility. He's able to play the Mei. He can play everything for this team, and that's why Echo suits him so well. He's like, oh yeah, I can play Ryan probably to this level. You know, I imagine that everybody just looks to Rascal when they're trying to learn a new hero of like, what am I missing on this? And he's like, oh, you're missing this, and it just elevates the entire team. You could give Rascal MVP. You could give Rascal a bunch of awards. He definitely deserves it for the San Francisco Shock. His Echo play was superb, and it's a hero that's designed around guys who can just deadlift their team on everything. Rascal, Fleta, those kind of guys, and Rascal definitely deserves player of the game.
Yeah, quite easily, but you're right, it could have gone to almost everybody on the Shock roster, to be fair. Violet as well with his clutch Immortality fields, him 1v1 and getting a crazy ton of final blows as well. Something you slightly expect from the Baptiste, doing a little bit of damage, but definitely carrying a lot more than a regular Baptiste would. That is for sure. The Shock end up with the W. A swift one at that, I must say. There was a possibility for a reverse sweep. This tournament definitely has been a tournament for reverse sweeps, that is for sure. And if you only just joined us, you're going to definitely want to watch how Rascal's been playing Echo. Take some of those tips into your solo queue games.
Yeah, just duel the other Echo, and the moment they fall below 50%, then, you just hit the beam, you go in, the balanced beam, I think it's called the focus beam. You and I have different opinions on that. We have the same opinion, just differing opinions than everybody else. It's a really strong ability, not to say it's imbalanced, but, sometimes it feels that way, especially when you're going up against it. You and I played non-Echo, so it always feels not good against an Echo. But yeah, this San Francisco team maybe got slept on a little early in the year. It's been a strange year to try to get beads on teams. Obviously, I think this tournament is a great benchmark of where some of these teams are. You get to see everybody play in high stakes, no hero pools tournaments. And I think now we're starting to see oh yeah, I forgot. San Francisco is the returning champion. It doesn't matter who they have on their roster, who they have. The San Francisco team earned that #1. And they get to move on to the finals, Joss.
Yeah, that they do. And I think we've got a word from Mr. Delisi in with Zoe. So we're going to jump over to that and give us his thoughts. And maybe he can tell us why he's such a round one tree.
Wow, all right. That's a good start to the interview. Thank you so much, Jack and X. And welcome, Super.
Hello.
Well, first of all, of course, congratulations.
Thank you.
Also, you want to answer Joss's question?
He can believe what he wants, but there's a reason I'm the professional and he's not. That's okay.
Ooh. That's I mean, there is no need to say anything else. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, that's also the same way I feel about this game. I was struggling finding good questions about this particular series. Let's just get your thoughts, I guess. Did you expect it to go that quick, that one-sided?
I mean, I maybe expected a little more out of them. I felt like they were kind of hesitant to swap off of their Lucio Brig comp. They just kind of brute forced it to see if it worked, which, I mean, I guess it worked against Paris. But, I mean, I would have maybe liked to see them switch it up a little bit. I don't know if it wasn't working in scrims or what the problem was there. But
I mean, we were brainstorming that. Do you think that has something to do with them just being scared, running into a mirror kind of composition with you guys?
I feel like a lot of the time, if you're I don't know, I've talked to a lot of professionals, at least this is my sentiment, or my idea is you can't really ever be scared in a professional match. You can't ever give your opponents too much respect, because I actually feel like that's kind of what happened with certain teams, like New York Season 1. People gave them too much respect, and they kind of were able to do things and that they probably shouldn't have been able to get away with just because teams were scared of them. But I feel like as a professional, you got to be able to not give people that undeserved respect.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, you're just playing yourself if you do that, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Now, moving forward, you are in the finals officially. You will be either facing off against the Florida Mayhem or the Philadelphia Fusion. Both of those teams had their ups and downs. Which of them would you rank higher, and which of them you actually think you're going to face off against?
I would probably say Philly's the better team, and I think we're probably going to see Philly. Especially because I feel like that's kind of the match everyone's been kind of itching for a while, is between us and Philly. So I feel like if we played them, it would be a pretty good match, and people would, finally get their questions answered. But I don't think Florida's a weak team, so they'll put on a good showing.
Were there any teams which really surprised you during the Mayhem League?
Yeah, I mean, Dallas was looking pretty good, I would say. I think mostly off the back of Decay. Paris looked a little bit weaker than I thought they would, honestly. I thought Paris could have done better than I thought. But I think other than that, everything was kind of the way I expected it to go.
Speaking of expectations, what were your team's expectations in terms of compositions we're going to see this weekend? Has that been pretty much what you expected, or is there anything you feel like kind of threw you off even?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, every week, with hero, there are no hero pools this week, but it's still kind of the same idea where you have to figure out, what's best to run. And, for us, we kind of had to just keep experimenting with different things because you don't really know, certain maps are better for certain comps, and we just kind of had to run with what we got because, we have short time to get it all in. So I think we just I think we had a pretty good idea on what was going to be run, so we were pretty prepared, I would say.
I mean, you definitely looked prepared, and I agree. It's been harder probably to prepare for the Mayhem League, given that we have such an open Euro pool and everything goes, right? So you're not just having to worry about the composition, but also on top of that, which teams you're going to be facing up against, which you don't know until the day before.
Right.
So overall,
we kind of
tough on the teams.
We kind of improvised some strats like this morning, basically. Because we found out we were playing Valiant last night, and so we regrouped this morning to talk about some things, and we made certain strategies based on that.
I mean, whatever you came up with, it seemed to be working. That was a very, very dominant performance from you and your team. So once again, congratulations, and we're gonna see you later in the finals.
Thank you.
All right, that was super from the San Francisco Shock, who just locked in their spot in our Mayhem League finals. We're now heading into a quick break, and afterwards we will be back with our second semi-final match between the Florida Mayhem and the Philadelphia Fusion. Stick around.